Hello. Chainsaw Man chapter 191 came out today, and we are going to go over it. So the chapter starts with Yoshida showing Denji of him capturing these four guys, and they are handcuffed and stripped, and the Katana Man is also with them. And it's a little weird how they just handcuffed him like that, because his devil trigger is by pulling his hand off, which he can easily do in this position. So, a questionable choice by the people that captured them. But, anyways, we move back to the cafe that they are in. Also, a questionable name for the cafe, but whatever. Denji recaps what happened while Pochita took over, and Yoru takes over Asa, unties her hair, and reveals herself to Denji. Denji, in turns, when he learns about Asa's alternate personality, asks which one of them pulled him off a couple chapters ago. Yoru said she would answer him if Denji eats his own hand, and he does that. So, some fans are not happy with what's happening here, in that Denji seemed to have not really developed all that much. Almost, you can even say he's regressing as a character, especially after him a couple chapters ago seemingly finding a epiphany on his way of life. And it's not really something that I can argue against, because objectively that's not wrong. But on the other hand, I think Fujimoto, if he's good at anything, it's character development and the inner turmoils of a character from his past works. So I'm not really too worried about this part. And also, it's more supposed to be like a gag scene, a funny scene. I don't, not that they're mutually exclusive, but I don't necessarily think, it means all that much. I think it's earlier in the series when Denji met Fumiko for the first time. He does what she ask him to do, which is to suck on a tentacle. But when it's time to square up and fight her, he was willing to do that as well. So overall, I get the complaint. And we'll see what happens with this. But while some people are not happy about this, I myself am more, I guess, unsatisfied with this next part, which is Yoshida asking Yoru why she hasn't turned Denji into a weapon yet. Yoru says that she does her little tsundere bit, and then how she's gonna play with him for a while. But Yoshida wants her to do it now. Apparently, he also wants Yoru to turn Denji into a weapon. And this is the part that I don't like, because I don't think it makes a lot of sense from a narrative perspective, right? So, Yoshida gives a whole spiel about death descending, no one can win against death, even Chainsaw Man and Yoru can't stop it, which is the exact same spiel that Fami gave to Nayuta a while ago, almost word for word. So Fami doesn't say a single word this entire chapter, so I guess what I can infer from this is that Yoshida and Fami are working together, which is the part that I don't like, because throughout part 2, Yoshida, at least in the beginning, Yoshida and Fami are kind of opposed to each other. They're structured in that they have opposite goals. They are seeing, facing off at the diner, facing off stare down with each other. So from a narrative perspective, I feel like they shouldn't have to have the same goal, because otherwise they'd be just working together. But throughout part two, they've been opposing each other, right? Like, it doesn't, because if they have the exact same goals, they would not have like two different factions to do so. They would just be one thing. If stopping death is the most important thing of them all, the reason I'm salty is because I had like a video that I was working on that amounted to like 32 minutes. I was like 80% done with it. And I had, so my thoughts was that they have contrasting goals in that Yoshida and the public safety sector wanted to use Pochita to erase devils, whereas Fami wants to use Pochita to throw up devils, like the nuclear devil, to empower Fami. Or not Fami, to empower Yoru. So like a contrast of restoration and erasure. And I thought that makes sense narratively to have two contrasting ideas, especially since Fumiko and the public safety sector spent like the last 20 something chapters trying to make Pochita eat the aging devil. So not happy with that. I feel like it's, again, the main thing is that like if you have two different groups that are opposing each other, but then they end up having the same goals anyways, I feel like that's not the most compelling narrative to go with, because like when you look back at it, it's like, what's the point of that? But with that being said, it's not like there's zero foreshadowing for this, because this public safety agent did say that he wanted Asa to turn Denji into a weapon. And I guess it makes sense that Yoshida transferred into Asa's school the day after she and Yoru like fused together. And you know, also a couple chapters ago, like just then, Yoshida made Pochita eating the aging devil impossible. So by that point, we probably could have guessed that his goal doesn't necessarily completely align with the public safety's goal of making Pochita eat devils. But, yeah, I don't know. But we might come back to that later, but let's move on for now. This part is also a bit weird for me, because Denji accuses Yoshida of killing Nayuta. And he really doesn't have any reason to think that at this point, because the last he saw, it was Barum and it was Fami who, baited Denji to go to the sushi shop. So as far as Denji knows, it's Barum and maybe Fami, depending on how much he remembered of. Because when Barum revealed his contract with the Fire Devil, he mentioned Fami by name. So if Denji's memory is good enough, he should recognize that those two are the primary culprits of killing Nayuta. But instead he blames Yoshida, which is, again, really weird. But yeah, I'm not getting that either. Yoshida gives Denji a gun. He says that if he lets himself be turned into a weapon, he and Fumiko will let themselves be killed by Denji. Denji points a gun at Yoshida, but before he can fire, the cake arrives. Yoru takes the cake, throws it at Yoshida's face, and then finger bangs him, do the finger gun at him. Which, as some readers have noted, is kind of similar to when Makima shot Power with her finger gun, because there's a finger gun, which is the gun devil, and there's a cake. So, parallels. And that's the end of the chapter. So Yoshida might die next chapter, but more likely someone will stop the bang from being fired, whether that be Fami or whether that be Asa from within Yoru's body. But yeah, so two things that I'm not entirely content about is this part where Denji accuses Yoshida of killing Nayuta when he really doesn't have any basis to do so, and apparently the fact that Yoshida and Fami's goals are almost one for one the same. Oh my god, lots of comments. The Gustav, I forgot to mention that on the last stream, restaurant is underground, and this is most likely a metaphor that they are in hell. Yeah, I don't know about that. Maybe you might be onto something in a few chapters. They introduced Denji, Detective Denji, this chapter. Asa is mentally broken. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. So we don't see Asa at all this chapter once Yoru transforms. I don't think I pasted the panel, but Yoru says that if she kills any more people, Asa will be mind broken. Denji chooses lust before he needed lust. In this chapter, Yoru felt like a promiscuous Makima. Instead of selling the idea of lust, she tells Denji she is offering it. She even called him a dog. Yoshida said that the death devil will descend. Devils are from under, not from above. No, so the thing is with it's from the Nostradamus's prophecy, and that the prophecy actually existed in real life, and that's what it says. It doesn't actually say that the death devil. It just says that a great king of terror will descend from the sky. That was the first line of that stanza. So yeah, so the Nostradamus thing is like real. Let's see, where was I? Small detail, Yoru pushes her hair back before she reveals. Yeah, and she well, I think it's more so that she was, because when you see her like spirit persona, she has long hair, whereas Asa ties her hair. So that's her way of differentiating between herself and Asa. Not that, but not that Denji would know that anyways. This chapter feels like a summary of part 1. Starts with boy lusting after a girl. Girl wants to make boy his dog. Gun is offered and ends with yes. Nobody in the table ordered strawberry cake. Is that true? They ordered chocolate cake. Gee, let me look at that real quick. Oh, that's a good point. Denji ordered a chocolate cake. Fami did the same too. Okay, that's a good point. Maybe it's like a cake with strawberry and chocolate on it. Nope, just all strawberry. So I guess the waiter messed up. But yeah, that's a good catch. I didn't realize that. Let's see. Denji ignored all clues that a death is coming. He held a gun against somebody. Yes, there's a gun and a cake and finger guns. So, let's see, what else? Calm before the storm, Fami didn't interact again. The chapter didn't even show Fami when Yoru wasted the cake. She's going to attack Yoru next chapter. I don't know about attack, but I do feel some real shit's gonna go down next chapter. Because Yoshida probably can't die here. So someone will have to act. Let's see. Yoru's gonna fail big soon. Pride comes before the fall. Yoru has mind broken Asa, sold her own children again, and let Denji live. War has destroyed everything without even achieving its goal. Just like Makima, Fami is probably manipulating public service. Government still a poor excuse of influence. I don't. I mean, I think she is influencing them, but like, I don't know. I want to say that her and Yoshida like came to an agreement in the cafe when they met in like chapter 121, I think, like right before the Falling Devil showed up. But at the same time, like Yoshida, right after that, he fed Denji his blood so that he can go stop the Falling Devil from doing whatever Fami ordered it to do. So it's like, even after that conversation, Yoshida was still opposing Fami. So if they did come to an agreement at some point, it must have been off screen. The goal of war was absorbing Chainsaw Man, and she chose not to do it, making things worse. Yes. Yeah, so not too sure what's going on. Like, I guessed Fami's side. I thought Fami wanted to turn Denji into a chainsaw. I didn't think Yoshida was gonna do that too. Well, it's not really guessing. She literally says it, but it's like, again, you know, I do feel like having Yoshida and Fami have contrasting goals would be more fitting for the narrative. That's the part I'm stuck on personally. Da, da, da. But yeah, because I do feel it's a bit redundant to have two different factions that are opposing each other, only for them to just do the same thing. Let's see, I believe Fami might be onto something. Not sure what she... Well, yeah, she's always being very, what's the word for it? Very scheming. I do find Fami a bit refreshing in that, for once, you have a scheming villain who just doesn't talk. Because in other series, you have a lot of antagonists that kind of give away their plan by just monologuing too much, whereas Fami is literally just keeping her mouth shut when she's not eating, and then avoiding stitching on herself. I do find it a bit refreshing, especially compared to, I guess, Makima in a way. I don't know if that's better for the series, because in part 1, Makima's mystique is like a big part of what's keeping the discussion going. Whereas in this case, Fami is so quiet that a lot of fans kind of even just forget that she exists. That being said, I feel this chapter is very intentional in keeping it that way, like keeping her presence to a minimum. Hopefully she reveals something next chapter. Otherwise, she's just present. Let's see. When two factions have the same goal, usually one absorbs the other. I see Fami destroying what's left of Yoshida's faction. The thing is, like, from what I understand, and I'm questioning that a lot now, even Yoshida is going against what he got the public safety to do in the first place, which is to make Pochita eat. Because last chapter, Yoshida gave up on the idea of making Pochita eat the aging devil really fast. He prioritized like getting out of the aging devil's world rather than making him eat the aging devil. So in a way, I guess he's also betraying the public safety. Yeah, this is breaking my brain, to be honest. I had like a really concrete, I thought I had like a super spot on answer for what Yoshida wanted to do, but apparently not. Oh man, I'm sad. I was like 80% done with this video too. I guess like the second half of it can still be salvaged, but oh man, it's my own fault for not getting it out. Let's see. Fuko stop, I guess you're saying Fumiko stop interacting with Denji, feel like a different person from her original persona. Kind of. Can't really see too much like here to make a judgment on that. So let me see what she did this chapter. She had like this weird face when Denji pointed the gun at Yoshida, like she's surprised. Or maybe she's pretending to be surprised to mock Denji. I don't know. There's also a part like after Yoru made her tsundere statement about not wanting to play with Denji. She and Yoshida kind of just looked at each other. So I don't think there's too much here to make a concrete judgment on that. Man. But yeah. The other thing that bothered me is also this part. Because Denji, again, the last thing he saw was either, like before he fell unconscious, was either Barem trying to frame Nayuta, like trying to get Nayuta killed by the mob, or Fumiko leaving Nayuta. So in that case, and if it's a second case, then he would be blaming Fumiko, I would think. And if it's the first, he really doesn't have a reason to blame either of them for that. So I'm confused on that as well, very much. Or if maybe Denji figured out that Yoshida is working with Fami, but then he's sitting next to her, so why isn't he mad at her? So this part confuses me a lot as well. But speaking of this, Yoshida also doesn't deny or accept that he killed Nayuta. He's just silent, giving him the ... treatment. So I guess some readers can take it as him making Denji believe that Nayuta is dead, but he, in actuality didn't do it, which leads to the coping of Nayuta being alive, which, could happen. We saw two Fumikos the other day, so who's to say there's not two Nayutas? Nayuta also made a peace sign on her cover appearance, which could suggest that there's two of them. But yeah, this part is tripping me up as well. Unless Denji, 3-digit IQ, figured out what's going on with them. He really doesn't have a reason to say this. It also makes me wonder if there was originally different plans for Barem and Nayuta and Yoshida. Instead of Barem killing Nayuta, it was supposed to be Yoshida killing Nayuta, and then Fujimoto just kept the dialogue. Because Yoshida was the one that threatened Nayuta to begin with. I don't know. This part and the turning Denji into a weapon part, those two are tripping me up. Let's see. Denji won't get depressed as before again, so it makes sense to show Nayuta being alive. Yeah, I mean, my thing with Nayuta dying it's more so that we barely spent time with Nayuta to begin with. So it just felt really rushed for her to die like that. I mean, I know I made a video about Barem making Denji eat Nayuta, but I would prefer if she is alive and present and has a role in the story. I see some people say that like it doesn't make sense for Fami to kill Nayuta, but you know I don't think it's that outlandish because she has no faith in Denji or Yoru individually to stop the Death Devil, so she probably didn't value Nayuta that much. Also, we kind of see Nayuta in action. Her powers are pretty limited. She lost to like 10 guys with a spear. So, I don't think Fanny would value Nayuta that much. But yeah, a bit of a strange chapter in terms of some dialogue choices. But yeah, most of the people I see complaining are more focused on Denji's possible character regression, but I'm more concerned with some of the stuff that comes afterwards. Let's see, Nayuta dying also erases the message for part 1's end. Denji finding a family in her. I do think that's like a lot of what some people are complaining about too, because at the end of part 1, most readers' expectations was that, you know, part 2 will feature a lot of more slice of life, Denji, Nayuta kind of stuff. And we really didn't get very much of that. But yeah, that is my biggest issue with Nayuta dying, if she is dead. Just that Denji, because to think about it, I think my favorite scenes in part 2 were mostly with Denji and Nayuta doing stuff. So for her to just die like that feels a little off, especially when like I think the biggest I guess critique of part 1 that most people have was that the pacing, like Denji, Power, and Aki didn't really spend that much time together on screen and I think most people were I guess not upset, but like would prefer if they spent more time so that their deaths would be more impactful. And I think that's something that some readers wished Fujimoto had done differently in part 2, but it doesn't really seem like he is. But Fujimoto won't miss the chance of all 4 horsemen meeting later, so one form of the Control Devil will show up. That's a good point as well, but I don't necessarily think Fujimoto is like the kind of author to, you know, do like a cool gathering like that. I guess he did for when like the weapon hybrid showed up to fight Pochita. That's like the only one instance that I can think of it. Otherwise, I think Fujimoto is like pretty liberal and just making, how do I say it, like not, like he doesn't try to make encounters seem grandiose like I don't know, like One Piece or something. I think Fujimoto is just more about random encounters that escalates to a different scale. Like when Katana Man first showed up, or like the recent fight between Pochita and Yoru. But yeah, that's I guess that's about all I got for the week. A lot of complaining on my end. But yeah, I guess that's all from me. Yeah, alright. See you guys next week then. Thanks for the comments.